Thank you. sol para de me la ma re bo che da no ni ko be me de yo la ko de che me bo ne ge zo de sha cho ni be do te bar yo sama ge me she ra ko ro she ma ye mo ko nam yo ke mo yo wo ye so so ra re ye she she yo yo ko de so mo ja yo mo na sha se lo te yo ta go ya te go ya te pa ra ha go ya te pa ra ha sang go ya te mo de so ha te yo ta go ya te go ya te pa ra go ya te pa ra sang go ya te mo de so ha te yo ta go ya te go ya te pa ra go ya te pa ra sang go ya te mo de so Gri dong da ji ji wang da me de ne be jen da chou da tun ba de jin pen so so ye da ye de zhang den de de le yo sa ye be je shu me to zham na re re le ye ni de jen ban de san ye jin do me de bo ye zhou kun nam da kin la she bu so ye dam nan gu ru re na ma de la ne ya da ya me sang je che do ma zu je cho na ma shang chu bar do da ne shu su che da ge che che je be so nam lo la ben sha sang je do bar do sang je che do so je cho na ma shang chu bar do da ne shu su che da ge che je be so nam lo la ben sha sang je do bar do sang je che do ma so je cho na ma shang chu ba do da ne shu su da ge che ge je be so nam lo la ben sha sang je do bar shu wala ma je na ge ta da ne be sen ge tang ji dan do to ja la na me ba yang da ba zo be sang ji gong ba ro ba ji ne ji to ba sha gu te do ba sha we che do tam be che ro ba je se nyan be go no shang ji sem ji ze sem be go ne sem ba shu
let us cultivate the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of bodhichitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
Madam Chamaloke, Sanji Companto day, the Joe Yanj turned Sanji Combatant in Yagure.
I want to emphasize this point that as we seek complete enlightenment as our ultimate spiritual goal, we do that for the benefit, more for the benefit of all other sentient beings. That's because when we cultivate bodhichitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment, when we defined it, technically, it is accompanied by two types of aspiration. We call dunba in Tibetan. There is aspiration seeking or focused on complete enlightenment or Buddhahood, and then there is other aspiration, wishing to benefit all other sentient beings. So bodhicitta consists of those two aspirations we call dunba, the one which is focused on enlightenment and the other which is focused on benefiting other sentient beings. So in other words, what we really need to understand about bodhicitta is this, that in order to benefit all other sentient beings, we seek our own enlightenment as a means to do that. So the two types of aspiration, they are very intimately related to each other. We are seeking our own enlightenment, so there's an aspiration focused on enlightenment, but more as a means to fulfill the end, which is to benefit all other sentient beings. There's other aspiration. Yes. Now the reason why we are seeking our own enlightenment in this particular context is in order to benefit others in the most efficient and in the greatest possible way. First, we ourselves have to become Buddhas and enlightened beings. Without becoming a Buddha, we would not have the complete abilities to benefit other sentient beings just the way we want to and to the fullest extent possible. So because of that, we are seeking our own enlightenment as a means to bring about the fulfillment of benefiting all other sentient beings. So in order to benefit all other sentient beings in the best possible ways and to the greatest extent possible, first we ourselves need to have the complete abilities to do that. And if we are, so to speak, sailing in the same boat, then even if we want to help others, we really can't. We are in the same situation. So an example I want to give is that if someone has, fallen down on the ground or whatever, then the other person who could really help that person is the one who is standing up and who has the ability to do that. But if both people have fallen into the same situation, then it will be rather hard for each other to help each other to get up. So in the same way, first we need to develop the complete abilities to help other sentient beings. So that's why we are seeking our own enlightenment to, for the sake of other sentient beings.
That in the lives not that, and is Kovi Johnson on holding any single ya tan Drayakata, and never the difference.
Metaphorically speaking, that right now, all of us, we are all, in this ocean of cyclic existence of samsara. And so being in this kind of predicament, it is really hard for us to help each other to get, on the other shore, if you will, which is the enlightenment. So we are trying to, if you will, cross this ocean of samsara, get to the other shore, which is enlightenment, so that now we have the complete abilities to pull out, if you will, all other sentient beings who are still in the ocean of samsara.
So that Kulun Judicani, Sinji to the Sanji combat of Shase, the Kulun Judicani, the Kachin Buchaguriste.
So because of, these reasons, that every time when we come together for teaching like this, or we do our practice, right at the beginning, we try to set the bodhichitta motivation, or we set the altruistic motivation, because this motivation then really gives us the direction into which we are going to move ourselves, into, and so it sets the tone, it sets the direction for us for our practice and to participate in the teaching.
So
bodhicitta motivation helps us to set the goal. So we are very clear about our spiritual goal and the reason why we are seeking enlightenment. But to be able to get there, or to internalize complete enlightened state, we must also combine bodhicitta, altruism, with what we call the wisdom gone beyond, the wisdom that realizes emptiness as it is, shunyata or sunyata. Because the bodhicitta and the wisdom must be integrated together. They must go together. You see, this is like a great pair we have, as a means or a method with which, we can become complete enlightened, persons.
That thing was in one current toggery, curry, and Ranju Shep Shavuson, that thing ever you must. Two by Kimber, one to Zoka, and Tomaning Hun Tomasin, T. Jason Sanju Sensing Yori, that Mao Sanju Sen Hun Sheni, T. Jason, on the Tony to be here Ranju Shep, that one bonnet to Chavachioris.
So what I just said is that in order to become a complete enlightened person called Buddha, so that we will have the fullest capabilities to benefit all other sentient beings, we must cultivate bodhicitta, altruism or bodhisattva's attitude, and combine it with the wisdom realizing emptiness as it is. Yeah. And through this integrated practice of bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness, that we can become a Buddha. Now the question we could ask is, okay, so of these two things, which one should we cultivate first? Now that depends. Which one? It depends upon what we call our faculties. It is said that those with sharp faculties, and we particularly talking about bodhisattvas, first they cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness as it is, and then they use the power of that realization to cultivate bodhicitta, or the altruistic mind of enlightenment. Whereas most of the other practitioners, if you will, who are not on that level of faculty, sharp faculty, they or we first cultivate bodhicitta, altruistic mind of enlightenment, and then we cultivate insight into emptiness, and we combine them together. So then how do we cultivate bodhicitta? Of course, we have to do that through what we call the meditation. As many of you already know, that there are two meditational techniques or methods with which we can cultivate bodhicitta in our mind. And I'm not going to go into those two techniques today here. But I do want to emphasize that in order to cultivate bodhicitta, we must cultivate great love, mahametri, and great compassion or mahakaruna first. Without these two, if you will, positive attitudes, there is no way for us to cultivate bodhicitta. No.
아니 나중에 좀 해서 저번에서 자고 듣는지 내내 마치네 다 조지 반대에 내내 마치네 아니 가담비게 희수셔네 다 상주지 그래서 로종센터 랑게 아니 로종에 될다 개침부지 노신이 진난 거요레스
Starting with our historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, and then his teachings have been passed down through other lineage masters, and so there were greatly realized Mahasiddhas or the adepts of India, and also so down through the great lineage masters, including great Atisha, sitting over there, and then from Atisha, teachings were passed down through many great Kadampa Geshes. And all of them, have unanimously emphasized what we call mind training or training of the mind, lojong, thought transformation.
lojong ju de sanju sem jong ata ane tomni to be hirata ranju chewata tingi boteres.
So when we talk about what is called lojong practice, thought transformation or mind training practice, essentially it consists of those two things: cultivating bodhicitta, we will call conventional bodhicitta, and then cultivating ultimate bodhicitta, or in other words, the wisdom realizing emptiness as it is. So we cultivate these two types of bodhicitta and bring them into union, if you will, within our own mind. That is basically the essence of mind training or lojong practice.
다 sanju sem jong kin sanju sem jong kin jong ani ran ta yin yin nani ta yin senji yin chomal ta ke chot zgore.
So if we aspire for bodhicitta, then we have to learn to attach more importance to others than the self, because cultivating bodhicitta involves cherishing others more than ourselves.
다 senji yin is zanya mi changba san tang chama ro mi changba san tang chama ro ri tu yo re pen nyawa ye da tindu atanga ni la la ma yin a chomalo yin nan tan du go re ran le yin be ro ta senji condition na ko go re.
So what is involved in cultivating bodhicitta is to cherish other sentient beings more than oneself. Now here, when we say other sentient beings, we literally mean every sentient being, that exists. We are not simply saying fellow human beings, or some of the other animals we know around us. Basically, in samsara or cyclic existence, we do talk about 6 types of sentient beings, or what we call migrators. And there are 3 types of sentient beings who are in the sort of better state of existence, if you will. So we have the divine beings or the celestial beings, and we have the demigods or the asuras, and then we have the human beings. Okay? Then there are 3 types of beings who are, relatively speaking, in a more difficult situations: hell beings, hungry ghosts, pretas, and animals in the animal world. So these are the 6 types of sentient beings we find in samsara. So when we say we are going to learn to cherish other sentient beings, we literally mean all other sentient beings. There is nobody there to be excluded.
So that thing is in consideration. Ani senji yin la mi pita senji yin chamal mi be ni ji maran je dunghe yin dunghe ji nawal yin dunghe senji yin dunghe ji nawal andu te ne ta senji kheba sheni ta dunghe te re thabi thabde rang shegi thawa thana ki maru thawa dag shegi in sambaji na
So now the point is, how do we cultivate bodhichitta and other positive attitudes in relation to and for sentient beings? Let's take the case of cultivating great compassion, or makaruna, Nyingje Chenpo in Tibetan. The way we cultivate great compassion in our own mind is, first we have to focus our mind on the suffering of all other sentient beings. We do need to understand, that others are going through all different kinds of suffering and problematic situations. So once we understand their suffering, then we can sincerely wish them to be free from their state of suffering, which is we call compassion. And so we cultivate compassion by cultivating, if you will, a series of thoughts, such as how nice it would be if these sentient beings are free from suffering. May they be free from suffering. May I be able to find a ways, the means to be able to help them do that. See? So we cultivate a series of thoughts, if you will, through which we cultivate this genuine compassion in our mind. We truly wish all other sentient beings to be free from the suffering. We are not faking out, we are not acting out, we just really mean it. Okay.
No, today sonza ngaranzo senji yen ta so kandechi yin never say something jamaris, never say jamaris, something jam, never say something jamaris.
So as we cultivate compassion, if we really mean what we say or we are thinking, that we wish every sentient being to be free from the suffering, what is involved in that wonderful positive attitude is, is the principle of non-violence, or ahimsa, right? If we develop compassion for others, we cannot think of hurting others, because we want them to be free from hurts. We want them to be free from suffering.
Dungitil Garse, the never shave it, any laying about Sabate, Rang Tabata, any singular tea, any laying about the Yin Neve, laying about the Messiah, Manamjin's Jagris.
Of course, I am not in any sense trying to just give you a sense that it's very easy to cultivate compassion. It is not. It does involve a lot of efforts and persistence here. So when we cultivate compassion, of course, from our side, we really wish every sentient being to be free from suffering. But as we interact with others, others may not necessarily like us. Okay, they don't have to like us. Okay, so they may say nasty things to us, or they may do something bad to us, right? But at such time, we cannot lose our coolness. We cannot retaliate against them and say the bad thing back to them. Because we need to be able to withstand that. You see, cultivate patience. Because a part of cultivating compassion is also cultivating patience. When others do something bad to us or say something bad to us, we are not going to repeat it or do the same thing back to them. So the way we deal with these situations, we said, okay, whatever these things others bring upon us, they're saying nasty things, they're doing nasty things, whatever the case may be, we take such things upon ourselves with the understanding that these are all maybe related to my own negative karmic actions. By experiencing these things, I am purifying all my negative karmas, which is a good thing to do. Okay? And there could still be left other negative karma. So we wish that we also pray that may we be able to, face such challenges in the future. Okay. So this is how we cultivate patience. This is how we cultivate compassion for others.
Ani tambo ani tanga sosu nye the pinjan of the tension and this dal tambo na jona coverage in the remember those in past jones rangus load zone ani yin show ne kandiki shomba yin ya tela and penole san shem mjia ta rank ne hingi gomete ani ta macho chemkres.
So of course, everything starts with taking a baby step, if you will. Right? There's no, quick way to do this. Cultivate compassion and cultivate patience. So we can always start with, someone who is close to us. That could be our family members, or that could be our significant others, that could be our good friends, that could be our neighbor, whoever we feel close to. Okay? We start with that person or those people around us. And so we try to train our mind, discipline our mind, that even if they do something bad to us or say something bad, we at least try to challenge ourselves and take it, with patience. We try not to retaliate against them. Okay? So as we get good at doing this with our family members or the friends or the people in our sort of environment, then we try to extend the scope of our practice to include, more people, okay, more sentient beings into it. Okay? And so others may decide to do anything, whatever they decide to do, but what we are saying is we are not going to rely upon, their actions or what they think about me. Okay? We are just only going to think about what we need to think and what we need to do, that we cannot do bad things to them, we cannot say bad things to them. Okay? And that's what we decide to do. And so whatever the situations we find ourselves in, we say that I'm not going to lose my compassionate feeling. Okay, so this is what I'm going to stay focused. Others may say something bad, others to me do something bad to me, but at least I'm not going to lose my coolness and I'm not going to lose my compassion.
Sinji yen la nebe ngarang lue ta nga ta yisumbe neba zan me she a sam pemba ki gad do tun ma to neba me she sam ta che yang yang she guris.
So our practice involves, like every day when we get up in the morning, right, we need to set for the strong motivation and kind of make our own pledge. Today I'm going to see that I'm very fortunate that I'm not dead yet, so I just woke up. Okay, so what I will pledge to myself is I'm going to use my body, speech, and mind to do something beneficial to others. But at least I see that I don't harm others physically, verbally, and mentally, so that I don't misuse my actions of body, speech, and mind, at least today. Okay? So we have to kind of make that commitment again and again. We might break it, then we have to kind of, sort of pull ourselves up, so to speak. And that's how we train our mind.
Ya lane tanke te ya ne tan ye lega se sina tene na sang tang ya te ni me kon da kabi ine ta nge senji yen na ne be ring zan me je ba hyo hi a sam me je kare zang ne senji ge sanji kon ba to ba shi senji yin de la dre le ke len ge son zang ne yen la be pe ba de ba ma to ne ba zan me she sam mi dan je yang yang de sha gu res ne zhen ba sha gu res.
So right in the morning when we get up, we try to set for the strong motivation what we are going to do for the day. Okay, we said, so today I'm going to do my best not to harm anybody physically, verbally, and mentally. If I could, I would try to help them, physically, verbally, and mentally. Okay? And then during the daytime, when we are at work, in school, or wherever we are, okay, then we try to recheck with us. Am I following my motivation or not? Okay? So then we start to remind ourselves that the reason why I decided to do this because my goal is to become a complete enlightened being for the benefit of other sentient beings. That's what I said I would like to do. That's what I'm committing myself to. So because of that, so I cannot do anything bad to them. I cannot hurt others. Okay? So this is how we kind of conduct ourselves every day.
Ta rang le ngamba stapin shewa ngama le ngamba stapin nami che rang le ne yin never she ten shona ya ne nebe len peba droba ma to nebe len never tan me she sam ta ting ba sangur.
So we also, as I explained earlier, that in the morning we said we are going to set for the strong motivation to be of benefit to others and not do anything harmful to them. And then we said, should I encounter difficulties and challenges? Because, I have created a lot of bad karmas in the past. Okay, so maybe this life we didn't create, or at least we don't remember. But in the past lives, we did a lot of negative karmas. So those karmas could ripen. Others could activate those karmas and do bad things to us or say bad things to us. At such time, I will face the challenges with the understanding that I'm purifying my negative karmas, okay, so which is a very wonderful thing to do, okay, and I'm not going to create new negative karmas by retaliating against them.
Do Sanji Combo Mother Father, Yin never should the land any Pemba, but you don't know show somebody that Lam they don't know but Lamley Single Sanji, Shani Kunjus Single the source and those in some town.
So we use every possible way of thinking to stay focused on what we would like to do. Okay? And we said that, even if we couldn't do it exactly, we said we would like to do, but at least we pray to our gurus and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for inspiration. Please bless me to be able to do something like this, in the near time future. Okay? And so this is how we, try to bring practice in our everyday life.
That the toilet Karasana, Senji around again, Senji yet Samalo, around Kadi Chima, 2,000 thing about those 2,000 tango.
So to assist ourselves in cultivating such positive attitudes, I think one of the other ways to do that is if we learn to appreciate the kindnesses of other sentient beings. If we somehow understand that others have been kind to us, that will help us a lot.
Then on country, when the sentient losing something, data in the Pama something. That data any data Pame sentient that data any round the condition. You understand the Tenzin Dorjee.
So as we often talk about, right, when we look at sentient beings, maybe we can put them into three groups. Okay, we have friends, we have strangers, we have enemies. Okay, now one of the things probably we are asking ourselves is, how could I think of the kindnesses of the strangers and enemies? Maybe I could do with my friends, but how do I do that?
Làm sao mình có thể thấy được?
Data a day. Permission the drug and I'll paint our son, take him to some of us.
So we might say, I really don't remember anything being benefited by these strangers and these enemies.
That is another transfer the Shevan Dimato, Sheva some tango marriage.
So when we find ourselves thinking that way, we really have to realize that we are so much stuck in this lifetime only, right? We're just only confined to this life and we are not thinking beyond this life. Okay? There have been many rebirths we have taken before, we call past lives. Okay? And so things have changed all the time, It's not like just who we see as enemies, so they have always been enemy and forever be enemies. There's no such thing like that. Or the strangers, we think forever and forever you are the strangers. No. Okay.
So that rank data and the permission but the same D and any Pamata Tangana and rank and Yen de la rank pent up and Nike, dying chicken thing, Herma Dosin, Tampshire Mangula and there's a pentires.
Well, in this life, yes, enemies don't help us, benefit us. They're the ones who make troubles, you see. And strangers are strangers. They don't care about us. Okay? But when we think about past lives, these enemies were friends, and these strangers were friends too. Okay? So when they were our friends, just like the friends of ours this lifetime, they did many great things to us. Just like we appreciate so much the kindnesses of our friends here and now, so should we appreciate the kindnesses of these strangers and enemies who were our friends before and who did exactly the same thing or maybe even more.
So that Ganga ran a paint up the Ganga Rank, then 2 years, Penna, Munhin of the National Shawang data, Mune Jens, Munjane Jess Tempe, Munhin of the Sona, that Tengu Armato, Yang Ranso, Munhin in the manner. 10 years, Penna 10 D, any ramp, Shebe Conley, Chunjukan, Shambo, Shea, Penta, then they are Chimbo Times and they took Munduas.
One of the great limitations we have is not being able to remember much of the past. Okay? And except those, beings or the people who have what we call this tremendous power of remembrance to recollect their past lives. So there is what we call a clairvoyance, being able to recollect your past lives. If those people can recollect, what happened to them. But most of us, we don't. And forget about the past life. Do we remember, most of the things in the past of this lifetime when we were babies? I'm sure there were people who loved us like anything. Do we really remember them? Kindnesses? We don't. Okay? So, that is one of the great limitations we have. We can't, we don't remember much about the past.
No,
so the main point of doing all this kind of, thinking is to be able to, appreciate how all other sentient beings have been kind to us in many different ways over many great length of time. So I'm just think about this. If we start to truly appreciate the kindnesses of other sentient beings, well, that kind of thinking itself will stop us from harming others, you see. If we appreciate and grateful to others for what they have done to us and for us, how could we be harmful to them? Here is our connection with the sentient beings. For us to become a Buddha, we have to rely upon sentient beings. It is, through their help, if you will, that we could become a Buddha. Think about this, that we say we are cultivating great love, great compassion, to and for sentient beings, and the reason why we do that is because we want to cultivate bodhichitta, and then we want to become a Buddha. Okay? But somehow in our way of thinking, we get stuck with this one person, let's imagine, right? Not him, forget about this person. Everybody else is fine in my world, universe, but this one nasty sentient being, I just can't, let go. Well, there is no way to cultivate great love and great compassion. We are stuck. You see, our sentient beings, because great love and great compassion are focused on all sentient beings, and all, that number is incomplete because we got this one thing, it's nagging our mindset, forget you. Yeah? So there's no way to experience great love and great compassion. So forget about bodhichitta and forget about enlightenment. You see? So this is truly how we can be unbiased towards one and all, every sentient being. There's no excuse here. Okay?
No. There some Congress. So you Shanji Serum Machine Padula. In the Shanji Center, Rangula Machine Padula, Kansi, something about the entire Rechta 2000 Congress.
So what I wanted to say to you and to myself is every day these are the thoughts we should be concerned with, and we try to cultivate them until we become Buddha, whenever that is. Okay, we are going to cultivate these thoughts so that we are able to experience all these positive attitudes, great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, and so on. So until we truly experience them, we can't stop thinking about these thoughts. So that would be my kind of a preliminary teaching today. And I also want to emphasize this point. Some people have this notion that, there's something called tantra, shortcut way. Okay? So it's just like, I can zip through to enlightenment. No, without bodhicitta, without great compassion, without love, forget about tantra. It's not going to do anything. Okay? Because to be able to practice tantra, we have to cultivate these attitudes. See, these are very much part of the tantric practice, which is called speedy path, profound path, or whatever. Okay, so there is no way to do sort of a, hop stick jump over to the tantra as if that's going to zip us to the enlightenment. So in other words, cultivating great love, great compassion, bodhichitta. So these may be considered, in a sense, preliminaries to engage in the tantric path and practice. So now we are going to return to this wonderful text, a miscellaneous collection of great Kadampa Geshe's personal advices, and we will continue from where we left off last time. So we are dealing with personal advices from great Kadampa Geshes. Now the Kadampa is the spiritual tradition which started in Tibet in the 11th century, by the grace of great Indian master Atisha's visit to Tibet, and he lived there for many years. And so from him originated the Kadampa tradition, and from then onwards, that tradition, if you will, generated or produced many great Kadampa realized Geshes. So now we are going through a collection of their personal advices to us. But as I kind of introduce this Kadampa tradition to you, but you must not in your mind think about as if this Kadampa tradition is something exception and kind of a different from Buddha's own tradition. No, it can't be. Buddha's teaching is the foundation. It is of the Kadampa tradition. It has to. Kadampa tradition accords with what Buddha has taught. It cannot be different, and it cannot be something else. So Kadampa tradition came about in a sense that maybe Adisha tried to sort of pull out this tremendous resources to cultivate conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta and combine them together from all the Buddha's teachings, So focus on those resources. So that's how the Kadampa tradition focused more on, if you will, or the emphasis on cultivating those two types of bodhicitta. So we have been through personal advices from a number of Kadampa Geshes, and now another Geshe of Kadampa tradition by the name of Geshe Nyurungwa has got this to say. So Geshe Nyurungwa, talked about what do we need to do, those of us who aspire for what we call Ngunto, higher rebirth or existence, or higher status, literally translating, and state of definite goodness, ngele. So we will explain what each of this means. By higher status, or the Ngunto, it consists of the two good rebirths we often talk about: to be reborn as a human being and to be reborn as a celestial being or a divine being. Okay, these two existences are considered higher status existence. Okay. Now the state of definite goodness, nyelek in Tibetan, literally translating here, consists of two things: nirvana or liberation for samsara, and complete enlightenment or Buddhahood. So anybody who seeks one of those two good rebirths called higher status, and one of the two spiritual other higher goals called liberation or enlightenment, they should do these things. So they need to do a number of things. Number one is that they must be able to see samsara or cyclic existence as like a prison. Being in a samsara is really being trapped in a prison. Well, now you might have a different picture of what prison is, especially in the United States of America. There are prisons where you can get education, you get good food, they have time off for playing basketball or some sports, and do some exercise, maybe go to the gym. We don't know what resources are there. We are not talking about that kind of a prison with all these facilities. Okay? So imagine a different kind of prison where, let's say, you are completely put in a dark dungeon and you are not even let free. All your feet and your hands are chained. Okay. Now, what would you be thinking, or anybody in that situation? He or she, wants to be free from this situation at earliest possible time. I cannot spend even 1 minute here. That's what we would say. See, that's the kind of prison we are talking about. So somebody in that kind of situation, sees there's no fun being chained and completely in this dungeon and wants to get out as soon as possible. Okay, so this is what will be going on his or her mind or our mind if we are in that situation. So we really have to picture in our mind or imagine that being in samsara is really being in that kind of a prison. So we must not cultivate or entertain this kind of thought. You know what, the samsara is not too bad, I do get some kind of fun here and there, So after all, I don't mind coming back again. Okay, maybe that's all right if I come back in the same situation, Do not entertain such thoughts.
Renunciation.
No. So if we somehow in our mind think that, samsara is after all not bad because here's a fun, here's some more excitement here and there, then we really cannot cultivate the sense of renunciation, to renounce samsara because we think there's something good about it. I'm going to stay with it. We can't let go samsara. We really have to think of samsara as that dark dungeon, all of us chained completely, our limbs. So it's no fun at all here, and it's the best to get out as soon as possible. That's the kind of thinking we need to cultivate. As it is stated very clearly in what is called 4 types of non-attachment or detachment, bodhichitta, or letting go of 4 types of clinging, perhaps. Without renunciation, there is no nirvana, there is no liberation. Okay, so if we are not able to develop aversion to samsara, because there's something good about samsara, we think. It's fun, it's excitement, it is cool, or whatever, then we get stuck. We cannot have, we can never find nirvana or liberation from samsara. So let me use another example so that maybe you will perhaps be able to kind of feel yuck, I want to get out as soon as possible. Just think about being in an environment there's nothing but, the stench and the filth all around, and it just, is nauseating. And do you want to spend any more time in that kind of nauseating, filthy, yucky environment? You don't. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing, we have to think about samsara.
Yes.
How come? Like if you fall into the septic tank, how would that be? Would you enjoy that? I mean, really, if you look at the nature of samsara, this is what really samsara is. Really, it's very filthy, it's nauseating, it's yucky. So we try to find, any other examples, to be able to illustrate and convince ourselves that being in samsara is no fun at all. Okay, then we will truly wish to be, free of samsara. So Geshe Nyungruwa says we should.
Geshe
Nyungruwa says that so we should see samsara as being in the worst kind of a prison. Okay, and then Geshe says, I added to that. You can think about being in samsara is being in septic tank or in a filthy environment. And being in samsara is just like being falling into the fire pit. It's no fun. You're just getting cooked. So the point I'm trying to make through all this, examples is that we have to convince ourselves that being in samsara is really a terrible thing, and find any examples that works with you. Say, being in samsara is completely nauseating and, just irritating, and it's better to get out. So use any example that works with, you. And then the Geshe Nyungruwa also said those who are seeking higher status and states of definite goodness should also think of their body and life as ephemeral as the bursting bubbles. So in other words, we have to look at ourselves. You see, this body I have and this life I have, they are as transient and ephemeral like this, water bubbles. I'm sure you understand what, water bubble is, right? If you watch, this, water with the bubble, what it doesn't stay even for a second. It just rise and fall, it doesn't stay static in any second or nanosecond, as we talk about these days. So the you can go and watch any running water or wherever the water bubbles are being created. Just watch for a moment. You can see that in the first second or a moment the bubble is created, and the next moment or second it deflates. It's gone. So the point here is, why do we have to think of our life and body as transient as bubbles that rise and fall, every split of a second, is to really we have to understand this body and life are very impermanent. Okay? Of course, I mean, we are accepting the existence of this body and this life we have. Just as we can say, I'm watching the water, bubbles rising up and falling, apart, right? But at the same time, we have to understand another aspect of our life and body, which is called, impermanence. And so that means that this life and body could come to an end any moment. You see, we really cannot predict it, and there's no way to control it, you see. This life could snap, any moment.
Rank so tall, young at the day, try Matabata, rank the Luther, so but you the you in the pay, Kadun, you give me chap Mato Tennyson, Kanang.
Geshe Nyurumba said two things so far. One, he said we should see samsara like a prison to be able to cultivate sense of renunciation, develop aversion to the misery in samsara, and get out as soon as possible out of samsara. The second thing he said is we should reflect on the impermanence of our body and life, and this helps us to counteract our grasping at permanence of life. And when you use the bubbles, this is more like we're dealing with a subtle impermanence, right? How our life, it disintegrates from moment to moment. And especially here, he's emphasizing this impermanence has many different aspects. It's a multi-dimensional, concept, if you will. But the aspect that's being emphasized here is the uncertainty of the time of death. We do not know when this life and body are going to come to an end. So as we listen to this kind of a teaching, we really have to, take it very personally and try to absorb the teaching in our mind. And not like we hear one thing, yeah, that's what he said, but I'm still here. Okay? Well, we are here together, so it all looks like everything's fixed, right? We are sitting here listening to teaching, and having this conversation, and sitting in this wonderful gomba or a monastery. Looks like everything's permanent. Okay, nothing is changing. So we think, okay, that's fine, that's what he said, and I understand, I hear it, but I'm here. Then we are really grasping at the permanence of life here. See, we have to take what we are talking about is, as we are talking, our life is changing every split of a second. It's not static. It's not like everything's fixed.
Debate over any way, Migi swallow pa, that thinking debate over any that day commander that you start rest, drum Michel the Geshes. Drum Michel. That dining with your end one day. That debate over any that can say rank when the rank in it, run any rank saw that and they don't think that there's no tossing him.
And then Geshe Nyurumba said that we should see negative friends. The Tibetan term is digdog. Negative in the sense that who influence us to do negativities, who encourage us, we say, welcome here, let's do this together. And what we do together is negative, actually. And such friends are called negative friends. And so these negative, we have to really watch out and always kind of protect ourselves from the influence of negative friends.
So the debate was saying that then some Rago young get up a grain of listen to my maris. Pay calendar, Tagana, pay Kenya was here. Then they say any run and it church down, that. Show any part 10 Karasura. They be short pandusi, that Jubina, that they do chagres.
It is not stated here, but in the Lamrim treatises it is said that negative friends are not easy to recognize because they don't come with horns on their head or fangs or some kind of scary look, as if like, here I am, okay? Would you like to listen to me or hang out with me? No, they don't come that way. They come with smiley faces. How about let's go and eat together, okay? Which is fine. And let's have nice talk, what have you been doing? But all the things we do together, eating together, talking together, hanging out, whatever the case may be, somehow through all these processes, we call communicative and social processes in my field of study, and you see, what they are doing is they are trying to take us away from the Dharma. So they try to influence us to go in the negative direction. Okay? So they come with smiley faces, they treat us, they smile at us, they hang out with us. But if we find ourselves being pulled away and away from spirituality, then these are the negative friends. Okay? So they don't come in Halloween costumes. This is my footnote. So we have to be really, we have to watch out. Samsara means we have to watch out and, But I do want to clarify, I don't mean like don't go out and eat together or hang out or talk. We're not saying all of these things. Okay, what we're saying is by doing these things, if we get pulled away further and further from the Dharma and positive actions, right, what we started to learn is, that our actions of body, speech, and mind are started to become more negative. Okay, and so then we have to recognize we are getting the negative influence and maybe we are hanging out with negative friends. Okay, if this is not happening, just somebody is treating us or we're treating them or hanging out, but that's a different matter. So the negative friends can come from our own family members or our best friends, and it doesn't have to come from outside strangers doing that. You see, among our family members, if somebody does the thing I just described, right, then he or she or they are our negative friends.
No. That yibadre. Give Shin las Yiji Nobu Rimbuchi, the Hishabra house. Ran Lam Tengi Gata Lam Tengi give Shin Yitala and Yiji Nobu Rimbuchi in the Hinan Shebres, Zachimutsubrita.
And the next Geshe Nyungrupa said that we should learn to regard our guru or spiritual teacher or mentor as like a wish-fulfilling gem.
That's the Karasana. Each noble and even those in social the member of Karata, tell any to share each noble, Rala Gupe, 10 Delta Gubi, Tangin Jungu, the Nayanka, and a Shawashama Penkel, Tabatanji Bokomo Toyota, Rang give me the Raleigh Church, the Sonsata, Sachim with the Huskan.
A wish-fulfilling gem or a jewel, it is believed if you really kind of make offerings to it and then you kind of make your wish, it can fulfill all kinds of wishes, or the worldly wishes, if you will. In the same way, if we kind of regard our spiritual gurus respectfully and listen to what they have got to say, then they are like a wish-fulfilling gem in the sense that all our spiritual needs will be fulfilled and we will be on the right track to find our own enlightenment. So it is in that sense, our spiritual gurus are like a wish-fulfilling gem to fulfill our spiritual needs and aims.
No. That is the rate. That the Jesus, Nyama Palas, Rangila Yepi, Nyama Bala, and to do change in the shepherd's house, to young do in the shepherd's.
And the next Geshe Nyungrupa says we should regard delusions in our mind, deluded states of mind that each of us have got, as poisonous as a poisonous snake. Now I'm repeating myself. As dreadful as a poisonous snake. So if we do come into contact with a very dreadful poisonous snake, what it can do at most is it can kill us. Right? We could lose our life.
That is not rang jili pen de cha da hedan da temu da nyama ba tzo ke ta rang so tabe so sa ke taba ran taba thoya ke so sa ke res.
So in the same way, the delusions that we have inside us, attachment, anger and hatred, and ignorance, they are poisonous in the sense that they can put an end to our potentiality and a life to attain nirvana enlightenment. So in other words, these delusions we have inside are poison that could put an end to our spiritual life. So just as we would be very careful not to step on or come into contact with a poisonous snake, in the same way now we have to really watch out our mind so that our mind is not influenced by, poisoned by delusions. As we often talk about, there are three fundamental, we call root delusions.
And these are
the ignorance, timu or mariba, and decha, attachment or lust, and hatred or anger, shedan. So these are the three what we call fundamental root delusions. So we have to really kind of regard them like a very scary, poisonous snakes. If each of them can be pictured, in our mind, they should be really very dreadful and scary, poisonous snakes. So just as we will not and we do not want to live with poisonous snakes even for a second, so should we think that I cannot live with these poisonous snake-like delusions anymore. So again, if we kind of fall into a dungeon with all kind of snakes, then we will be bitten by snakes from every direction. So in the same way, we are living amidst poisonous snake-like delusions. So like every second, these delusions are biting us, and that's what we have to understand. So we are not done with what Geshe Nyungrupa has got to say, and more, and we will stop there today. And I want you to think about these things. I think it's very kind of straightforward and direct, in what he wants to say. And I will also think about these things from my side, and we recapitulate these things next Sunday, and then move on with the remaining things. So number one, Geshe Nyungrupa said we should regard or see samsara as a prison. Of course, then I told you what kind of prison, right? Not the kind that modern prisons we have with the television sets and the basketball courtyards and the swimming pool and the pool table and all that. We're not talking about that. It's really the worst kind of prison you can imagine. And regard the samsara like a fire pit. And regard the samsara like a septic tank. The point of doing all that thing is not to make ourselves feel nauseating and but it's just to be able to develop aversion to samsara.
That is the man those the don't shaving, sometimes that sometimes love your shavers.
So I know you took notes of these teachings, and I want you to think about these points, and so these are to be contemplated upon.
Oh yeah. That's a matter of
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I thought the ring around so you chat about so the about in the case.
So Geshe says, if you have some really important questions to ask which have been nagging your mind, just write them down and bring with you next time.
Don't that Cambo today in the Troy in the Shizo Carse. So we shave in a Yahweh, can don't Mambo Yindala Pendochimo English.
So I do recognize that if you have some really questions which are making your mind very important to ask, I think if we ask in the public space like this, that will all benefit to other peoples too. Probably they have been thinking about the same thing, same questions.
Honest. During teaching, she gave it all at any Sanji Temper Mojeta, you the Nepata. Jawi, within the shape of the man, you could have it tempered, 2 G into the Lemon Ruata. Church drinking show permanence, 20 shower is in the Dubata. You didn't come to the end of the typical sort of the Kenny, 20 the sort of the Memon.
Let's dedicate our collective merits for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy masters and beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May these and other world environments be free of all unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality.
Donna Magi Senji Tamji. Maran Chokin Shivigi, Zola, Ten Magi Senji Tamji, Linji Jibali Trone, Sanji comparable to be Juchuki.
In short, by the power of merit that we have accumulated together participating in this teaching, may all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of 2 types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Senjo Ramboche, Maje Bana, Shejurje, Sheba Nyamba, Me Pavata, Kone Kondo Pewer, Sho Tony Dawa Ramboche, Maje Bana, Shejurje, Sheba Nyamba, Me Pavata, Kone Kondo Pewer, Sho Kara Rabe Kurve, Shenkomater, Penda Dewa Male Jung. Shere Sawa Tenze Jasoye, Shabe Sin Tenjo and Ye Shui Method Ye Nid Hambond Sonye Mede Muaye, Loquan of the Kino Shabo, So Edaman Guru Rena Mandala, Nea Daya Amen.